And this is kind of an art, right? This is where the art comes in of medicine when you're trying to integrate these things at the right time that someone can tolerate. So right now, if I try to give her a big cup of electrolytes, she might not be able to because she's had trouble keeping down the liquid. So you kind of have to know when. Like you might hear this and go, "Oh my God, I'm going to do all the things because I want to get better," but there can be an order of operations. So I think get your gut calmed down first. If you can go an hour or two, if you're in an active vomiting situation, if you can go an hour or two without vomiting, that might be the coast might be clear enough for you to try to work some of the other stuff in, whether it's liquid tinctures to kill things, or if you're doing something like a biocidin or other antimicrobial drops we use, the dosage is usually so small that I think you can keep it down because you're not going to have to do a ton of drops, right? If you could just do like 5 drops, that's tiny. Your body's barely going to recognize that. And if it's at the tongue, I don't think that's going to create more vomiting. But that's kind of where the art comes in and paying attention to what's going on.
I agree. Doing some of the liquid drops are wonderful because if you can't do a full capsule, hopefully you can, right? But if you can't, getting some liquid drops in there of some herbals can be super helpful. Maybe some silver. Also, like you mentioned, if you really have a hard time keeping things down, that's where a good IV fluids, IV electrolytes, IV nutrients may be a good idea because that bypasses the whole digestive system. So then it gets right into your bloodstream and does what it has to do. So you can find some of these liquid IV services. They'll come to your house or find a facility near you where you can pop in, get it done. Ideally, if it's this acute, you're probably better off paying the money and having someone come to your house. You probably feel a lot better. And I think it's better than going to an ER unless you're, really in rough shape, then go to an ER. But if not, you're better off doing it at home just because there's less infectious material, at home than in a hospital, right? So I think that's a good strategy out of the gates for sure.
Well, and to take it a step further, not only that, but when you do these mobile services, like I did this last summer, you're able to customize what you want. So hospital's not going to put glutathione in the IV like they did.
No,
They're not going to give you
no.
10 grams of vitamin C like I requested. So you're going to get a much, much better menu, if you will, of nutrients than if you were to go to the hospital.
Yep, I agree. I 100% agree. So first thing out of the gates, I would say is try to do liquid or even just fast. And then if you're really having a hard time with the nutrition, try to do liquid. Whether it's an elemental diet or some collagen amino acids or some bone broth, that's great. And if you can't keep the food down, ideally try to get some kind of an IV going on there. I think that's a good strategy out of the gates. I think the next thing that would probably happen, it would be like IV antibiotics if you absolutely had to. But ideally, we don't want to go there unless all the other natural strategies aren't working, right? So we want to really try the low-hanging fruit. What's going to have the best bang for the buck, the least amount of side effects, the least amount of collateral damage, and then kind of go up from there. So, of course, try to look at what caused the problem. Did you eat some bad mayo? Did you eat some crazy seafood? What happened? Try to isolate the cause. If there's a lot of vomiting or diarrhea, vomiting, it's going to be harder because it's not moving through the intestinal tract. It's staying in the stomach, essentially, or upper small intestine and moving out, right? So you got to do things to calm yourself down. So I think the big things, like you mentioned, the homeopathics, I think are great. I think the probiotics are great too. I think ginger can be great for the vomiting components. But then everything else, I think the diarrhea stuff, the binders, the hydration, getting all that stuff kind of calmed down, the ginger, all that stuff's wonderful. Anything else you did besides the homeopathics for the vomiting, Evan?
No, so far that was all she could get down. But luckily, it's been good enough.
Cool. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that.